All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our next session here at the CPA Summit. My name is Bill Sheridan. I'm the Chief Communications Officer with the Maryland Association of CPAs. So glad to be here. So glad that you guys are here with us. We got another great session here for you today, and we're really excited. Avalara has just been a great partner of the MACPAs for a number of years, and we're very pleased and excited to have a couple of folks from Avalara here with us this afternoon to talk about year-round 1099 and W-9 compliance. Here with us is Gordon Walsh. Gordon is the 1099 solution consultant at Avalara. He's affectionately known as the 1099 guy. So as you're introducing yourself, be sure to address him as such. Also, as a member of a family of teachers myself, this touches my heart. Gordon has spent almost a decade as a teacher before making the pivot into the world of taxes. So Gordon, welcome. We also have Joselle Serenpud. Joselle, she's fueled by an insatiable passion for learning. I love that, combined with a genuine fascination for human connection, coaching, and an enthusiasm for 1099 and W-9 tax compliance. She has found her true calling in the dynamic realm of product sales leadership at Avalara. So glad to have both of you with us, Gordon and Joselle. I think I'm going to turn it over to you, Joselle. So take it away. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Bill, and welcome everybody. We're excited to talk to you today about the year-round 1099 and W-9 compliance. You thought 1099s were just a year-end thing? Nay. We're excited to talk to you about that today. First, we've got some disclaimers and some safe harbor statements. While we hope you find this information and discussion helpful, this session is for informational purposes only. It's not legal or tax advice. And our safe harbor statement, this information is Avalara's confidential information. Materials used here are solely for the use in this context and are not approved for further distribution. This document describes Avalara's intentions as of the date of drafting and may include descriptions of products, functionality, or technology that are not currently available. Avalara reserves the right to change the functionality, release dates, technology, initiatives, and plans described herein without notice or duty to update. And yes, we will, because we're constantly improving this product because we listen to our customers just like you who have feedback and ideas on how to make the product better. That's actually how we build our product roadmap. So more good things to come from Avalara 1099 product. We already did a light introduction, but today I'll be covering some information around what are W-9s, what are 1099s. We do have a demonstration towards the end from our beloved 1099 guy, our technical expert, Gordon. And we can do a brief walkthrough of our agenda. We'll start with the basics. What are 1099s? What are W-9s? We will discuss the year-round marathon that is 1099 compliance. This is a marathon, not a sprint. The challenges associated with the W-9 and 1099 forms in the process, the opportunity when it comes to W-9s and 1099s, and an Avalara 1099 product demonstration. We'll handle questions towards the end as well, but please be sure to use the chat feature. Gordon and I will keep our eyes on that. And if you've got a great question that we think would be useful for the whole audience, we can answer those live. If you have some one-offs, we'll make sure we address those along the way. So we'll start. What are W-9 forms and what are 1099 forms? Well, we typically use these two terms interchangeably as a catch-all for the various types of 1099 miscellaneous, NEC, K, int, div, B, the whole alphabet is in there. We kind of use 1099 as the catch-all and the W-9 as the catch-all for all of these types of IRS forms. So we'll start with the W-9 side because in the entirety of the process, we like to start with W-9s on the front end. The IRS form W-9 is used to request correct TIN numbers, tax identification numbers, SSNs, EINs from a vendor or company or individual, which these are all your non-employees, your non-W-2 income that will be paid throughout the calendar year. And then we have the IRS form 1099. These are filed annually with the IRS to report on non-employee income paid to the vendor. And this information should have been collected on your W-9 into 1099. The 1099 is required if the vendor, company, or individual receives payment or for services throughout the calendar year. There's also information on states, which I think we talk about later in the program, but that always comes up at this point. Well, what about the states? Yes, the IRS and the states, they do require sometimes same information, sometimes different information filed annually, and we'll get into that. So those of you who have been dealing with the IRS for a while, IRS compliance is challenging and sometimes mistakes can happen. So we'll talk about 3 outlined here. If you or your clients don't collect a W-9 in the first place, what can happen? Well, a lot can happen. There could be a fine issued from $60 to $630 per missing W-9. Some industries have a lot of these, a lot of vendors, a lot of contractors, a ton of W-9s or the series of W-9s. If that's you and that's your industry, feel free to commiserate and drop in the chat if you'd like. Second, if they file a 1099 with an incorrect tax ID, well, they'll need to rectify it with the vendor. Sometimes this involves backup withholding at 24%. And if you can't rectify, if you can't modify, make the change, there's fees and potential penalties issued by the IRS. And if you or your clients are storing the W-9s themselves, please, please, please make sure your security is up to par. Those W-9s include very sensitive data and information such as home addresses, such as legal names and social security numbers. So please make sure those are stored in a very safe and secure location. Yeah, this is, I like this little bubble. It's a time suck to do this. So how do you know if you have an incorrect tax ID? How would you know? There's a lot of different ways to check for correct match on TIN and name, and we'll talk about that as we go through the presentation. A few other challenges associated with these forms we can talk about. So first one, this one's fun. Follow us along on the map. All right, so first, we're manually requesting a W-9 from a vendor. And manually can be the full spectrum from paper, filling it out in the office, mailing back and forth. Manually could be emailing, because now we know digital still requires a bit of work and we can consider that manual as well. Or perhaps you have some sort of repository or request tool to collect those from your vendors. In the truest sense of manual, make sure you can actually read the vendor's handwriting. It's actually legible. There's no typos, no mistakes. You can actually interpret what is on the form. And you're creating an account on the IRS website so that you can validate those TINs from the get-go. So be proactive to ensure that you're conducting a TIN match right away on that new W-9. And if you catch any errors, you are requesting a new W-9 from the vendor, and or as you go through your year and you're doing your vendor maintenance, or you have special vendor due diligence or refresh projects going on to your vendor master file, then you'd be requesting new ones and trying to catch any errors if there are any. And you're storing these W-9s in a central and secure location. A locked file cabinet, it looks like on our slide, or a vault, a fireproof, waterproof vault, or digitally in a cloud. You figure out, will this W-9 or this vendor contractor, will it meet 1099 creation requirements, certain thresholds, certain other obligations, certain requirements? Will it then become a 1099? And you're likely conducting that research state by state on the state websites to understand which states require additional filing, additional information than the IRS, in addition to the IRS, of course. And then you're transposing that information from the W-9 and you're copying and pasting it onto a fresh 1099. And there, you file to the IRS and each required state one at a time. The fun part. Then you have to get those forms out to the recipients. You print a copy of the 1099, you stuff it in an envelope, you mail it off to your vendor, hope that you've got the right address information, that it gets to the right place at the right time, and it's the right information in that envelope by January 31st. And then a few months later, just when you thought 1099s were an afterthought, you get the lovely CP 2100 file, the IRS B notice, the notification of proposed penalties if you had any errors, and making sure that you are making those corrections or rectifying the situation to avoid any heavy penalties and audit scrutiny.
I'm exhausted.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And this could be multiple, depending on what your process looks like today. You might look at this and say, like, that's actually way simpler than how I do it. That's the reality.
That's that's a lot. That's a lot to take in and to deal with. Um, so that folks, head to toe, front to back, side to side, that is kind of the overarching process of what it is to manage contractors or vendors or any of these non-employees and all the steps along the way. And that's a lot of kind of manual disconnected pieces. And the wild part is, I mean, shoot, we don't have a lot of time to deal with this because the IRS, says you have to have these 1099 copy B, the form that goes out to the recipient so that they can file their taxes. They know how much they need to put their taxes out there for. They have to do this by January 31st. Well, if you've got, like most businesses, you're not going to have the totals for how much payments totaled up to be until the end of December. So you really only have kind of this one little bit of chunk of time in the month of January to get all this done, right? And so the amount of time is a challenge in order to do this. And again, if you're an accountant and you've got multiple clients, well, shoot, they're all coming from different AP and ERP systems, and their data is, and well, I've got W-9s, but this client doesn't collect W-9s really very well before they issue payment. And so we're tracking down recipient info. I mean, it's a lot to have to get up on a hop and deal with in January, all on its own. Let's talk about some other challenges that come up besides the challenge that Joe Saul just went through, which is the overarching process to get this done, right? How about the challenge of the IRS? I know you're thinking, Gordon, there's not that much time left in your session at what do we have, 30, 40 minutes? That's not enough to talk about how the IRS is a challenge. You're right. We could probably spend an entire 8-hour session on that. But strictly speaking, it's a moving target when it comes to 1099 requirements, right? So let's look at a few. Example. Starting in tax year 2023, so filing of this past January, the IRS introduced that new rule. It said if you have 10 or more information returns, W-2s, 1099s, the like, you must file them electronically. Wow, was that a change? That wasn't a small change. That was a massive change. It used to be hundreds of 1099s and hundreds of W-2s, and now it's down to a combined 10. So all of a sudden, just millions of businesses were all of a sudden going, I can no longer print these and mail them off to the IRS. I have to e-file them. I have to electronically file these with the IRS. And that is something, a lot of businesses weren't prepared for because this ruling didn't even come out until right at the end of the year, right? So had to keep up with that one. How about the 1099K threshold? Whew, that has been a hot topic. Ahead of the 24 filing deadline, the IRS was going to reduce the 1099K threshold for requiring that 1099 to $600 like it is for an NEC. That's an enormous impact. Holy cow, because it wasn't a small drop. It was $20,000 and 200 transactions for a marketplace seller, eBay, Venmo, PayPal, all of those different marketplaces. 20,000 and 200 transactions down to just $600 with no transaction limit. That meant, again, millions of people were going to have a 1099K that didn't have one before, right? Well, Then Congress introduced legislation called the Red Tape Reduction Act that was going to raise it back to $10,000. However, that legislation just got everybody hot and bothered and then went nowhere. But then just before the deadline last year, that 1099K threshold got delayed. And then it was just announced in the beginning of December of 2024 here that the threshold for this upcoming January season will be $5,000, and we'll have future reductions in 2025 down to $2,500, and in 26 it will be that $600 threshold. So we will see the number of 1099Ks increase over the next few years. Not to mention, and we don't have it on here, what's next? Well, shoot, we know the 1099 DA is coming out, so starting on January 1, all of our friends buying, selling, and trading digital assets, cryptocurrencies, that will all need to be tracked. It's tracked now, but it's not necessarily sent in on a 1099. Now the 1099 DA is going to be in place to track all of that and to represent all of the gains and losses there. And so it's hard to keep up, but there are so many federal regulations and so many changes potentially coming on at any given time that you have to keep up with all of that if you're going to make sure you're filing correctly. How about the challenge of recipient requirements, right? Because our vendors have needs too. Those contractors have needs too, right? They want their copy. Maybe they're trying to get a hold of, get ahead of their taxes. So they're saying, hey, let's go. I want my copy. I need that as soon as I can because I want to get my taxes done, right? Maybe it's around, as Joselle said, I've got bad handwriting, right? I'm sure plenty of people, I almost can never talk to somebody who's been doing this for more than a year or two who says they've never seen a W-9 that's been handwritten. Bill highlighted, I was a high school teacher for 10 years plus. I've got terrible teacher handwriting. If I filled one of these out on paper, oh, you'd have a tough time distinguishing my 4s from my 8s from, well, a lot of different numbers. So that's a challenge that we've got to deal with. What about changes? I changed my name. Right? I got married and changed my name, or I reincorporated. And so now we have a different entity, a different tax classification, different legal name. Maybe I moved, right? Especially with our contract workers or our marketplaces, contractual, like our freelancers and things, brand ambassadors, sellers, direct sellers, tons of potential movement there. And it's not on top of my mind to go and say, hey, I moved every time that I've moved, just to tell every company I've ever worked with. And so now, either we're sending this out or we're trying to send checks or whatever it is. And we've got the compliance issue of return to sender mail. And so trying to keep up with those things and all of the different needs that our vendors might have is another complexity that we have to keep up with. A couple pro tips here on the side. You can actually deliver a 1099 via electronic delivery. Not necessarily always meaning email. Email is probably the most popular way, but if you do have like a portal, if you've got sellers or ambassadors or something where they have a portal they can log into, you can always provide it electronically there. Just make it a download or a file, a form that they can access electronically. The thing about electronic delivery is the IRS mandates you must gain consent from your recipients first. You can't just email it, which would obviously be a lot cheaper than mailing since stamps are 73 cents a piece today. That is wild to me. But you do have to get their consent and you have to provide them a means to opt out. And again, Joselle, I think, recognized earlier, the instructions on how you can do that, what you have to do to make sure you're in compliance, that is all available on irs.gov. So if you want to be able to do that, you can look there. Also, again, pro tip, right? We have two different threshold kind of or requirements to even issue a 1099 to a vendor. And the first one is tax classification. We don't have to issue 1099s to all of our contractors or vendors or sellers or freelancers or independent contractors or whatever term we're using. If they are incorporated, meaning they're a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC taxed as a C Corp or an S Corp. Just because they're an LLC does not mean you're off the hook. They may be taxed as a sole proprietor, so like a single member LLC, or they could be taxed as a partnership. And in either of those cases, we're a disregarded entity or an LLC partnership, we would still need to issue a 1099. So, keep that in mind as well. But those different recipient pieces can be a challenge. And again, this right here, these two pro tips, trying to stay ahead of electronic delivery, trying to stay ahead of tax classification, makes a great call for why automating and connecting the dots between W-9 and 1099 makes so much sense. The W-9 is that form where we know whether we need to issue a 1099 based on tax classifications. Also a great place where you could gain that consent for electronic delivery at the point of onboarding, and now you've made 1099 season that much easier. How about the challenge of rejected filings? Joselle referenced it, right? The CP 2100A notice that comes out in October the following year, typically October, could be a little bit earlier, could be a little bit later, depending on your situation, but usually October. That is the fancy way of saying a B notice, right? Where the IRS sends you that list of all of the 1099s you filed, where the taxpayer or the tax recipient name and tax ID number don't match up correctly, and so now the IRS doesn't know who to collect their taxes from on this 1099. So making sure that the TIN number is there. That is the number one most common reason for the IRS to reject a filing, is that the TIN number doesn't match the name, right? Misspelled legal names, inaccurate. This is probably going to come to no surprise, but the number of times people file their W-9s and then therefore give a W-9, therefore the 1099 is filed with the DBA listed as the primary name. The IRS doesn't care about DBAs. They aren't matching via a DBA, they're matching the legal name. So if we have a DBA up on that line 1, we're gonna see some issues. State IDs. Some states require you to have your state ID in there, or have a withholding tax ID, should you do any type of withholding in that state. And if we don't have that state ID, it's gonna be hard for the state to connect the dots and make sure that we attribute that tax money to the right spot. So again, all of this data that can create a rejection of a 1099, where does it come from? You got it, the W-9. So again, another call for why connecting the dots in one flow from W-9 to 1099 makes so much sense. Reducing the amount of steps between collecting a W-9 and issuing a 1099 to help reduce your rejections. Oh, yikes. How about all the states? All the states. There are so many states that are causing trouble when it comes to 1099s. Joselle and I talk to tons and tons of businesses. Every week we are talking to probably 100+ businesses between the two of us, and regularly we have at least once a week, if not more, we talk to somebody and say, how are you handling your state filings? And they say, state filings? Yeah, state filings. And so the government is trying to make it easier, right? The combined federal state filing program, you sometimes see it as CFS. This is the program where when you file with the IRS for your federal 1099, it automatically files with the state. We would love it if all 50 states got on board with this and made life easier, but unfortunately not all states are a part of this. And on top of that, some states are a part, but still require you to file separately with the state itself. So that's another challenge in 1099s, is not only do I have to take care of the federal and the state, but if I do something I got to go and figure out every single state and their requirements. Do I have to issue a 1099, file it with the state if the individual lives in the state? Do I have to do it if work is performed in the state? Do I have to do it if they just get a 1099? Which 1099? Some states require it for some types and not others. Some states require it if you only have state withholding in that state and not others. And then how do I transmit that data? Is there an online portal? Do I need to mail something, right? There are still states out there, and this is, I know, hard to believe, but in 2024, it is still accurate. Some states require you to burn your 1099s to a CD, and put it in an envelope and mail those 1099s to them on a CD. I don't know about you, but I don't even have a means in which to burn a CD anymore at this time in my life. That faded out back in like 2005. And I don't know how to even do that anymore.
I don't think computers are made with CD drives anymore. They're like this thin. There's no way.
Exactly. You'd have to find a third party somewhere to help you out on that, I think, and that's tricky, right? So, one change this year, again, this goes back to our, we're mixing state and federal here, but Rhode Island, thank you, Rhode Island. Rhode Island joined the combined federal and state filing program this year. Unfortunately, they're a very small population, but still, we're glad to see a new state join and simplify the processes as well as for the combined program. So challenges unrelenting. Wow, you'd think I'd run out of slides on challenges at some point, wouldn't you? I don't. We'll just keep going for a while here. How about mailing? We just talked a little bit ago about trying to electronically deliver these via, gaining consent, but the most common means in which 1099s are delivered to recipients is via the mail. Well, what happens if the address you have to send that 1099 to a recipient is wrong, and you get what we like to refer to at Avalara as the yellow sticker of death? That return to sender sticker that gets plastered on there, right? And returned back to you. Well, you've got a lot of costs that add up. The hard costs, right? You got to get more 1099 forms, toner, ink to print those. The extra postage, right? Again, 73 cents a stamp. The cost of envelopes, all of that hard costs right there, that adds up. On top of the soft costs, right? When you get that return to sender, now I have to go and look up and get a phone number, an email, and go, hey, where are you? We just got your 1099 back. So now I got to figure that out. I got to where track that person down, reconnect with them. Then I have to take the time to do all of this again. Reprint, restuff, relick, restamp, remail that form back out to you, on top of if the IRS comes a knocking and says, hey, was that delivered to that individual on time? Well, no, it got returned to sender, so I didn't get it to him till late. Now I might be liable for fees or fines for late mailings, right? So when you add up the cost between hard and soft costs of rejected mailings, additional postage, the forms, all of that, you could be looking at hundreds or thousands of dollars just to get rejected mailings or return to sender mailings taken care of. I'm almost done. I know. We'll look at all these challenges. I told you I would keep going, but I think this is my last one. The last major challenge, again, as we highlighted before, but is this somebody is this a 1099able vendor or not? What you're looking at magnified on screen, that is box 3 of the most recent W-9. That is tricky. It is got to select the right box for what we are, for what that business is. The IRS kind of says, hey, you're not supposed to tell a vendor how to fill this out on their own. They gotta figure it out. But guess what the catch-22 is? If they fill it out wrong, we're gonna come after you. You're the one who we need to blame, and you're gonna be the one who gets the notice. You're gonna be the one who then we track down and say, either you get us the corrected information or you pay the backup tax of 24% on this mismatch on these problems. So this is the document. This is the W-9 is where we get told that. I hear that all the time from people. I only collect W-9s from businesses that I'm going to have to issue a 1099 to. And I look at them and say, how do you know if you need to issue them a 1099 or not? Well, they're incorporated. How do you know? This is the document that would tell you. This is the sole thing that a business could have that says, hey, this is what our tax classification is, and that is what tells me whether we need to issue a 1099 or not. And so, it is not just a mandate, but a law. You are supposed to collect a W-9 for every non-employee you pay, regardless of whether you think you're going to issue a 1099 or not, and you're supposed to do it before you make your first payment, right? So bear that in mind as you collect information throughout the year. All right. So let's talk about some of the opportunity. How do we correct some of this? How do we face these challenges and make sure that we feel confident going throughout the year and facing these challenges head on, right? Well, one, make sure you have a good daily process for collecting your W-9s. I think we've shown multiple times that W-9 collection is directly coordinated to good 1099 procedures. So make sure you have a good process in place, that you have best practices, that you're collecting W-9s that you're making sure you automate that as much as you can, and that you're getting one from everybody, regardless of whether they're going to hit the payment thresholds or you think you're going to have to issue a 1099. Have a good process in place there. Making sure you're being proactive about data validation, right? Do TIN matching. I can't stress that enough. If there is one thing to implement that, if you've seen, leave this presentation, one thing you could implement you're not doing today, TIN match. The best practice is to do it at the time you onboard. Not just because you haven't made a payment yet. That can save you, right? Once you started making payments and then you find out there's a TIN mismatch, what happens if you can't get a hold of that person? Now you're, again, liable for the 24% backup tax on every payment you've made. Whereas if you TIN match before you've ever made payment, now you know there's rejection, and you can either say to that vendor or contractor, look, either get this TIN matched and I'm not paying you, or I'll pay you, but I'm withholding 24% from every payment I make. All right. So get ahead of those B notices, be proactive, and do TIN matching. Again, regardless of whether you can do it at onboarding or you do it at year end, it's still good to do. And then address verification, making sure again that you're saving yourself the very timely and costly error of return to sender mailings. Make sure that you are validating addresses ahead of time so that if you do send out a stack of these via mail to recipients, you know that those are going to reach their destination, and that you're not going to have a bunch of return to sender mail. And then lastly, storage. I know this seems so black and white, but again, already this week, and it's only Tuesday afternoon, I have had multiple conversations with people who have these, are printing out W-9s and have them in a binder somewhere. Best practice, keep them all in the same place, regardless of the use case, regardless if you have multiple departments requesting them, or multiple companies you're managing them for. Keep them centralized and keep them secure. Find a way that has high bit encryption. Limit the number of places they go. If you can, use a solution that stores them all in one place. And then if you need to take data to put into an AP or ERP system, I strongly suggest, throw in a name and an address, but leave the social security number, the TIN number in the one system that collected the data. The fewer systems that you've got a totality of personal information in means the lower the likelihood, or the lower, places that somebody could hack or break into, or, somebody could walk past a computer and see it open. Whatever it is, you're keeping it more secure and more standardized that way. So have a good way to store these W-9s. And again, remember, at the end of the day, this is a marathon. It's a daily practice thing. We have to go out and put in a couple miles every day so that we're ready for the marathon in January. Making sure that we are doing little things throughout. And again, good W-9 collection, good data validation, TIN matching, address verification, making sure we don't make payment to vendors until we have a TIN match W-9. Put a process in place, write the rules, and stick to it. And that means by the time you get to January, you've got a lot more accurate data, and you're in a much better place than trying to rush and play catch up and do it all right there in December and January. Now, I know Joselle showed this before, kind of walked through how complex so much of this can be. And, she talked about all the different steps along the way. Well, again, now we're coming to that time where we want to give you a sense of what we can do at Avalara and how we can help to make this a little bit easier for you. And so if we take in what Avalara can do, we're going to be able to simplify this a lot. We have a W-9 electronic W-9 collection tool where you can request W-9s. We auto-validate the tax ID number in the background with the vendor and collect consent for electronic delivery. That way, all of that data can be stored in our secure system. We've got all of those security protocols in place, SOC 2, 256-bit encryption, US-based servers, all of that. And then we can take that and immediately push it come year end onto the 1099s. So very, very automated data from W-9 to 1099. We e-file it with the IRS with another TIN match in place before filing. We e-file to the required states. We have all of the systems in place to flag what states require filing, what don't, and getting that done. And then we have e-delivery, again, because we've tried to gain consent using the W-9 tool. We're hopefully emailing a majority of these out, but if you need them mailed, we can mail them directly to your vendors for you, and we do it all in one place. Really, really simple, really, really clean, really, really easy. So again, automation, having the tools makes it a lot easier, right? I kind of make that comparison all the time. Somebody handed you a hammer, a box of nails, and a handsaw and said, "Build me a house." Oof, that's tough. But if somebody gave you an air compressor, a nail gun, and a circular saw, well, now you have the right tools, and building a house is a lot easier. So having the right tools in place can make this make all the difference in how that works. So I'm going to take a minute here and directly share my screen on our software and kind of walk you through a little bit from a high level how our system can help, what we can do to automate all of this. So as I said before, we have these tools in place. Make sure we're set up. There we go. And so it starts on the W-9 side. From our organizational standpoint, we allow our clients to have as many company records, payer records, or EINs of companies as they want in the system. There's no problem that way. I think we have some accounting firms and some service providers that have thousands of their clients in the system. We also allow our clients to have unlimited users in the system, so you can have as many people, and you can assign permissions to only see the clients and companies or groups that make sense for those people. So a lot of organizational structure there. Now, when we're trying to collect W-9, and as Joselle said, we kind of blanket use the terms 1099 and W-9. We can collect W-9s, W-4s, and the international W-8 series. All I have to do is click in, type in a vendor's name and email address, and send that request out. That will send an email allowing that vendor to click a link and quickly access our W-9 alternate form. So we built this with the feedback of tons of users. It is IRS approved, and the goal is to make it easier for them to fill this out than an actual W-9. Obviously, we already think it's a little easier to look at than the small print of a W-9. We're still asking all the same things, right? The legal name, the DBA, tax classification. This is one area where we chose to make it a drop down instead of the check boxes like we showed on the W-9 before. We do find that that reduces the number of errors, especially on those single member LLCs. We'll grab their address and email address, their TIN number, whether it's a social security number or an EIN. They'll certify that it all looks correct, and then we do gather a live signature, which I think is great because this will plaster itself right onto the bottom of an actual Form W-9, which we give all of our clients access to the full line of those W-9s in PDF form, all IRS auditable and ready for whenever they want to download those. Now, if this is where it ended, I think it would be helpful. We've centralized it, we've standardized it, we've removed the idea of handwritten or partially filled out W-9s. But in addition to that, we add a couple features. One, again, that IRS mandate to gain consent for electronic delivery, we gain that here, and it is a required question so that they have to answer it to make sure we can do that. Again, this is going to allow us to reduce the mailing cost, the most expensive part about doing a 1099, as well as reduce the liabilities, right? You can't get return to sender mail on mail you don't put in the mail. Love that. The other feature, and again, probably my favorite part of our entire solution, is when somebody clicks sign and continue, it's going to do a live TIN match via the IRS, a live TIN match. So if that matches, then we're going to tell that individual, hey, congratulations, it matched. You can download a PDF if you want or revise your form. If it doesn't match, we're going to tell them that too. Hey, your information doesn't match. We want you to revise the form. When they click revise form, it's going to take them straight back here where they're going to be able to scroll up and see that they maybe miskeyed something or had a spelling error. They can fix it and resubmit it to us up to 3 times to get that TIN match taken care of, therefore saving our clients a ton of time from having to, play the phone tag game, the back and forth of, hey, your TIN didn't match and now I need new information. Well, the vendor can take care of it on their own before it ever comes to you. Once those are filled out, they can fall right into our dashboard where we can keep track of who we've sent requests to, who's matched, who's gained consent. We even automate whether you need to issue a 1099 based on the tax classification. And if we ever need those PDFs, we have those accessible and ready to go at any time. So a really great living and breathing, piece of this puzzle, allowing you to keep track of all of your W-9s, all of your details, and be able to stay in compliance. It does make it even easier at your end where we can just transfer these straight over to the 1099 engine. So now your 1099s are mostly filled out with TIN matched, already verified W-9 data. So all you need to do is give us how much did you pay them throughout the year, and we can take care of the rest. On that 1099 side, again, same organizational structure. All we need now is to import the data. We have some direct connections and extractor tools built out for certain ERPs and AP systems. We are always expanding this list, and we have the goal of, in 2025, to expand this list by a large amount, as we have expanded our development team quite a bit. And again, with the goal of having direct connectors in W9, W8, 1099, 1042S, all of those things being able to integrate with single clicks between your ERP and AP system and our system. Otherwise, the most basic way that we see our clients upload information is just via some Excel CSV templates and informing us of those numbers through an import. Once that import is in place, we can keep track of all of our recipients. We can tell whether they're gonna, are able to be e-delivered or we have to do physical mail. We can edit our forms via easy to see error problems so that we can get those rectified before we try to file. And then once you're ready, we do give you the ability to schedule your filing so that you can come in and say, I want my files, my forms to be filed on a certain date in January. The great news is that up until that date, you have time to rectify and fix any problems, whether that's you've e-delivered to your recipients a couple weeks ahead of the e-filing, and now they've given you some feedback that some things are wrong. You can fix those before you've ever filed. We also will do an address verification through the United States Postal Service and a TIN match through the IRS and provide those results to you the day that you schedule. So now again, you'll have these results to work through and potentially weeks of time to work through any of those errors before your filing ever takes place. And as we said earlier in the session, we can do the mailing for you, or you can do it yourself. We give you very easy to follow dashboards using bright colors to let you know things like red, stop, there's a problem, deal with it immediately. We do the same thing on a user by user basis, so you'll be able to keep track of what needs to happen. And we give you really easy to follow dashboards here as well on a user by user basis to see who have we sent emails to, who has consented to e-delivery, what's going on with the IRS and the state filings. And then if anything ever does go wrong, we make it very easy and free to do your corrections, no cost associated, as simple as clicking into a recipient, finding where you need to make the change, saving that change, and we have automatically made the filing to the IRS and the state on your behalf. We even give you the opportunity to send mail out after you've attempted for a week or two to get electronic consent. We'll even mail anybody who's has not yet accepted towards the end of the month. So really try to give you an easy to use user experience end to end where we can onboard using W9, validate information before we've ever made payment, push that data without any data error, potential for data error from a data entry standpoint into a 1099 engine, and then filing with the IRS and the state, as well as handling delivery in multiple forms straight to those individuals. So again, end to end, this is a great tool to be able to manage everything and connect the dots for you. And I think we do have some contact information here on the screen if you have additional questions or would like to set up time to look directly at this for your business and have a personalized call. We happy to host that call and show you the demonstration of the software in greater depth at any given time. Otherwise, I think we have just a few short minutes left. Giselle and I can answer any questions. I'm not sure, Giselle, if we have any questions that have popped up in the chat.
Yeah, thank you for this. So, a couple of questions around vendors. What if they don't want to give us a W-9? What if they think they shouldn't have to? What do we do in order to protect ourselves as a business if and when our vendors are being non-compliant or difficult to cooperate with? What do we do?
Yeah, that's great. In all of my years of consulting with companies on that comes up practically every time.
Yeah.
And I just try to tell businesses, remember, you're the one who makes the choice on who you work with. This is a vendor. You can choose to work with them or not. So you can let them know, look, this is what the government says I need in order to pay you. I have given that IRS page, .gov website to multiple clients so that they can push that to their vendor and say, look, the IRS says I have to collect this. So give it to me or I can't work with you, right? Withholding payment or withholding that 24% backup tax, withholding from a payment is a pretty quick motivator to get a vendor or contractor to work with you. Should you have any that don't want to use our electronic system at Avalara, we do have the ability, which I obviously can show in a more private conversation, but we do have the ability to upload PDFs and individual W-9s. Should you get those via paper or something, you can always upload those, get TIN match results and things into our system, so you can continue to centralize all of your data all together. But remember who holds the power, who has the payment for fees for the services rendered, and use that to your advantage.
And then let me see if there's any others that popped up since then. Oh, hot tip. Radio Shacks are not really around anymore. If you need a CD-ROM from somewhere, go to Amazon or Best Buy. Great tip. So if you don't mind just backing up one slide so that people can see where to get in contact with us, because I had a couple messages come across looking for pricing, looking for more details. You can absolutely scan this QR code. You can reach out via email to accountants@Avalara. You can call that phone number. Really, however you'd like to get in touch with us, find Gordon or I on LinkedIn, and we'll get you connected with our team here to provide more information if you'd like. And it's not too late. It's not too late in the year. We've been getting that question a lot. Not too late. There's zero implementation with this product, so we can get you up and running fairly quickly. It's not a big lift whatsoever. We do it every year for, I think, was it 195,000 customers have used Avalara 1099 for processing. So yeah, happy to help you as well. Let us know how we can be of service.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Giselle, Gordon, so much for being here, for your partnership over the years, for your insights today. A lot of great questions that came in. People are certainly interested in the topic, and we're happy to have you here and partnering with us so that you can help answer some of those questions. For those who are still on the call, there is a link in the chat where you can download the slides and take them with you. So grab that link and take that contact information with you so you can reach out to Giselle and Gordon later on. Also, please make note that you should, where is it here? I believe there is a return to lobby button on this page where you can go back, where you will then proceed to your next session this afternoon. So click on that return to lobby page when we're done here. And that's it, folks. Thank you so much for being here. Giselle, Gordon, thank you for your time. So thank you. Have a great afternoon. Take care.
Thank you. This was fun. Have a great day.